Good evening, everybody. It is almost time for another new comic book day. Big week this week. Wanted to go over a few of the highlights, starting with the single issues. Batman, we are back to the Nightmare storyline, which was rudely interrupted by the Price crossover with The Flash for the past few weeks. We are back in the thick of it with Tom King's Nightmare storyline, which I have no idea where it's going, but we'll see how that ends up. Next up, Cosmic Ghost Rider destroys Marvel history. For if you read Cosmic Ghost Rider, the original miniseries, and thought to yourself, wonder if, wouldn't it be cool if he was more like Deadpool? Well, Marvel heard you and really wants you to buy more Cosmic Ghost Rider books, and so is making him more like Deadpool. Regardless, that should be a fun romp, very much in the style of the Deadpool Kills trilogy, whatever you want to call it. Also, Domino Hot Shots, Gail Simone picking up after her very, very successful ongoing, for as long as that lasted, run on Domino. I think this is just intended to be a mini-series, but picking up where she left off with the previous one. Definitely, if you read her previous run on Domino, you will want to check out the new run. There is a new issue of Doomsday Clock this week, so for those of you who are have prepaid for the entire run, you want to come in and pick up number 9. And for those of you who are just picking it up off the stand, you will also want to come in and pick up number 9. Always an event when a new issue of this book drops. That's really enough said about that one. Green Lantern number 5, Grant Morrison's bonkers crazy run on Green Lantern continues with Hal Jordan marooned on a vampire planet. We already had a planet who is a Green Lantern, so why not a planet that's a vampire now? Give me a little bit of what Grant Morrison's smoking. Next up, Star Wars Vader Dark Vision. This is a new mini-series that they're doing that it's a little bit like, if anybody remembers the Spider-Man Tangled Web, where it was stories about Spider-Man, but they were from other people's perspective and the way that, he affected other people around him. This is kind of that same concept, but it's the way other people in the Star Wars universe view Vader from outside of his perspective. Which is kind of it's an interesting idea. I think that could provide some interesting stories. Young Justice number 3 is out this week. This book has exceeded my expectations, which I can't say very often about a book that I'm pushing on people. I'm very pleased that people have been picking it up, and I've heard a lot of good praise back from people on it. I'm certainly enjoying it myself. I think Bendis is doing an excellent job really, recreating that feeling of the original. There's also a lot of really cool trades this week. First up, Batman and Harley Quinn, which is a collection of digital-first stories that are new stories set in the continuity of the classic Batman animated series. So definitely something to check out if, like me, you have watched that show possibly a few too many times. I won't say how many. Next up, the first trade in the new Justice League Dark run. Of the 3 Justice League titles that started in the wake of Metal and No Justice, this has definitely been my favorite. It's not just because I'm predisposed towards titles with Swamp Thing in them. This has been a really interesting story, and of course I'm sure they will be following up very quickly with a Witching Hour trade, because this story was cool, but it was really just a lead-in to Witching Hour, which was awesome. One of my favorite DC crossover books from the last little while. I definitely highly recommend picking that one up. New Walking Dead trade, we're up to volume 31. I don't really need to say anything else about this. If you're picking up Walking Dead trades, you kind of know who you are. Letting you know that that one is here and on the stands. The Wildstorm Volume 3, Warren Ellis's big return to form. Definitely, if you haven't been reading this and you enjoyed Transmetropolitan or Planetary or even Ellis's previous runs on The Authority or Stormwatch or anything like that, definitely you need to be reading this book. It feels like the first thing that he's really cared about in a long time, which is really nice and refreshing to see. Definitely should be reading that one. And also, Wicked and Divine, we are up to Volume 8. Similarly to Walking Dead, if you're somebody that picks up Wicked and Divine in trade, you kind of know who you are, but it's always an event when a new one of these hits the shelf, so I wanted to shine a spotlight on it. Oh, and one last thing as far as trades are concerned. The hardcover for Xerxes, The Fall of the House of Darius and the Rise of Alexander, is also on the shelf for those of you who own the 300 hardcover and want its companion book in the same really weird, hard to shelve format, we have got you covered. That's all the major stuff for this week. As per usual, it will all be on sale at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, and we will see you then.